In this video, we are going to break down In this video, we are going to break down a message from an alien named In this video, we're going to break down a message from an alien named Vrillon, who is a representative of the Ashtar Command.
This is the voice of Vrillon, representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command, speaking to you.
Now, I've never heard of the Ashtar Command before, and so it led me to some digging, and here's what I found. So the first thing of note is that there was the name that was given to extraterrestrial beings or groups that a number of people had channeled, and the first known channel was by George von Tassel in 1952.
For many years you have seen us as lights in the skies,
aka UFOs.
We speak to you now to say the same as we have done to your brothers and sisters all over this, your planet Earth.
So my intention with making this video is to A, give you all the information associated with this event and any occurrences. The second thing is to give you my opinion from my background as a computer engineer and my experience with other channels and information that I've channeled myself. So let's jump into this. The first thing I want to point out here is his use of the word we. Very frequently will extraterrestrials or different beings, if you will, use the term we. It's usually that because these beings are operating from a different level of consciousness, they are bringing in information from other beings that are on that same level of consciousness. Another thing that I would like to point out here is kind of the way that it ends all over this, your planet Earth. Whenever speaking to beings or channeled information, it is very rare they use proper English. And as we get deeper into this, you'll see run-on sentences. So don't let that trip you up. It's really kind of the energy or the feeling that the words are used in order for you to get the core of the message.
We come to warn you of the destiny of your race and your world so that you may communicate to your fellow beings the course you must take to avoid the disaster which threatens your world and the beings on other worlds around you.
Okay, this is packed full of information. Number one, this is that huge run-on sentence I was telling you about. So just kind of go with it. The grammar's never perfect with channeled information, which, with that being said, does lead me to believe that this is some sort of channeled message. Now, I guess the deeper question would be is if it was somebody who channeled this information and then made a hoax out of it, which we'll dive into later, or if this is truly an alien species who took this message and laid it on top of this broadcast frequency in the UK. But let's actually dissect what they're talking about here. They've come to warn us of our destiny and of our race. That means that they can kind of see the future at some level. What's also interesting is that if you're operating from a higher level of, let's say, consciousness, you have a deeper awareness of the world around you. You might know people like Nostradamus, or that one girl who isn't really coming to mind who was in a hurricane or maybe a tornado, and she lost her vision, but then she had the ability to see the future. These are all very similar, is that they're tapping into this different consciousness, if you will, or this different plane of existence, which gives them prophetic visions. What's also cool here is that it seems as if they're here to encourage communication between people, so that you may communicate to your fellow being, almost like an open for discourse. This is like a opening, if you will, for that. What's also interesting is next is how they talk about this disaster which threatens not only our world, but the beings on our worlds, being his world, around us. The thing that resonates with me the most here is that whatever I do is going to affect the direct vicinity around me, right? So like if I'm a person, right, I'm just one person. So I have the ability to affect other people, my family, my friends, one-to-one. What seems to be happening here is they're talking about a higher scale. So like if we're now talking about planets, if something happens on Earth, it seems like the magnitude of it would affect other planets, whether it's in our solar system or in different solar systems.
This is an order that you may share in the Great Awakening as the planet passes into a new age of Aquarius.
So this is really cool. So it seems here that they are now trying to use common knowledge or common words that we even associate here, thus being the new age of Aquarius. If you're unaware, the Age of Aquarius is essentially where Earth is in retrospect to other stars that are orbiting us. I forget which zodiac sign the Earth passed out of recently. The Age of Aquarius is known as like the Age of Enlightenment. It's the figure with the guy holding the water kind of on his shoulder. And so the idea is like it's the rebirth of awakening. And again, he's saying this is in order so that you can be a part of this awakening. He's kind of giving us the blueprint. He's trying to help us awaken, which in my opinion seems to be a noble cause.
The new age can be a time of great peace and liberation. You are right, but only your rulers are made aware of the forces that cannot show their judgments.
This is also really fascinating because first of all, he's saying that this can be a great time of peace and evolution. Like we're on the brink. And quite frankly, just as a heads up, this was recorded in this was broadcast in 1977. The new Age of Aquarius technically started around 2012. So we're kind of in it right now, which makes this a fascinating piece. And even furthermore, he's not saying that we need to get rid of rulers. He's not saying that our systems are broken, which I think is a very fascinating thing that especially people who would be referencing the Age of Aquarius in the 1970s would have probably been more on the side of. Instead, he's saying here that the rulers need to just be aware of their judgments and how their judgments can be infiltrated, if you will, by evil forces. I think that's a really profound thing. I don't think that that's something that the average hippie in the 1970s would be saying, or even today for that matter. I feel like people who are anti-government just say get rid of it all. They don't say, hey, just be aware of these evil forces that are prying on your judgments.
Be still now, and listen, for your chance may not come again.
Okay, this is super cool too. Be still now and listen. So like by being still now, like that invokes meditation, and just listen. What's the information coming to you? This is a super powerful thing, and even more so, this message was from 1977, and I'm making this recording in 2023. So this feels like a message that, and this is just me intuitively talking into this, it feels like a message that's kind of more for the test of time. You could listen to this in 2023, you could listen to this in 2045. It's not going to matter. This core fundamental thing is just be still and just listen. And then he kind of invokes in this, which strikes me as a little bit of fear-based, for your chance may not come again. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that it is based in fear, but it is like a warning. It's like, hey, like just, you got to be still, you got to chill. We need to figure out what's going on here. And if you don't, then the option for humanity might disappear.
All your weapons of evil must be removed. The time for conflict is now past, and the race of which you are a part may proceed to the higher stages of its evolution, if you show yourselves worthy to do this. You have but a short time to learn to live together in peace and goodwill.
Again, another crazy run-on sentence. Also fascinating is that it talks about how the conflict is now past. And I truly believe that this is in relation to World War I, World War II, and even the Cold War would have just ended, I think, probably about 10 years prior to this. Like the remnants of it may have been fizzling out. But what a powerful time for this message to come across when it's like, hey guys, like you can move out of conflict. Like it's done. Like your race, like humans, like our segment of being humans, like we're done with conflict. We can move into the next stages of our enlightenment if we show up, if we feel that we're worthy to do this. And again, he reiterates that time's running out. This is pretty crazy too. I'm gonna read the fine print that's underneath it. This looks like it's interesting too because this highlights that gun that we were talking about. And so what it says underneath here is increase the power of all violent government groups by 1. Increase the power of all command groups by 1. This card replaces any red NWO card in play. NWO, No World Order, gun control. This is fascinating. This seems like it's from a game of some sort, like a board game. I can't find anything online about it. So first of all, if you know what game this is from, please drop it in the comments below. I would love to learn. But even deeper, it must be something connected to this time that would resonate with people a lot more. It's an interesting topic, right? Because he's saying that all of our weapons of evil need to be removed. And then he's showing gun control, though, which raises the points or raises the value of violent governments. So it's almost saying that the government needs to remove its gun control. But maybe that's something you can also help me out with here, because it seems as though showing this card would almost contradict what they said in the statement before. Or maybe it doesn't. Drop a comment, let me know.
Small groups all over the planet are learning this, and exist to pass on the light of the dawning new age to you all.
That's honestly super positive. That means there's small groups who kind of already know this, or they're learning it, or they're relearning it, whatever it is, but they're here to keep that information getting passed on to everybody. They're down to share that information. Like myself.
You are free to accept or reject.
That's super cool. You're free to accept or reject. It basically is stating free will is a thing. We can accept it or we can reject it. The choice is really up to you.
Many go as wide as this. Then they run off.
And this is also super cool, is that we don't need everybody. So like if your next door neighbor doesn't want to live in a place of peace and prosperity, they don't have to. This really comes down to an individual basis. The question is like, do you want to accept these teachings? Do you want to expand and live in a more harmonious and peaceful way? The choice, the higher realms of spiritual evolution are available to you. You just got to make the choice if you want to live in those realms.
Here now, the voice of Vrillon, representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command, speaking to you.
It's also, I'm curious what's about to pop up. It's interesting he repeats that he says who he is, because I know in a lot of channel text that they will actually kind of repeat who they are to kind of let that sink in, to almost remind you who's speaking. Okay, and here's what he just put on the screen afterwards. And they forsook the Lord and served Baal and Ashtaroth. Whoa. Whoa. Okay, we need to do some research here. Okay, so here we go. Judges 2:13 in context. And also all that generation were gathered unto their fathers. And there arose another generation after them, which knew not the Lord, nor yet the works which he had done for Israel. Okay, so it sounds like the last generation has died and they forgot to pass on the word of God, or what people in common day source energy, whatever you want to label God or Lord. They, in this story, the past generation let go of God, if you will. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord and served Baalim. Okay, so like God's everywhere, right? God's in every fabric of the universe. So he's seeing what's going on. But they decided to serve Baalim instead of God. And they forsook the Lord, God of their fathers, which brought them out of the land of Egypt, and followed other gods of the people that were round about them, and bowed themselves unto them, and provoked the Lord to anger. So basically they're saying here that they took up other gods, other deities. They worshipped gods other than the universal source, if you will. And then here's what Vrillon put. And they forsook the Lord and served Baal and Ashtaroth. Whoa. This is really making me think that like he's trying to say that, you know, humans have prayed to Ashtar before, but let's look at this in context. You know, I guess they're just saying like, look, we've been here before. Humanity has talked to us before. And it seems though that the problem is that when Ashtar came down, when the Ashtar Galactic Command came to Earth or communicated, whether it was through channels or whatever, is that we took them as being the God and praying straight to them, which made the universal source angry. And then here we go. And the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and he delivered into them hands of spoils that spoiled them, and he sold them into hands of their enemies round about, so that they could not any longer stand before their enemies. Whithersoever they went out, the hand of the Lord was against them for evil, as the Lord had said, and as the Lord had sworn unto them, and they were greatly distressed. Nevertheless, the Lord raised up judges, which delivered them out of the hand of those who spoiled them. What my general belief here is that Vrillon is basically just saying, hey, we've been here before. Don't praise us as the one true God, one true Lord. We're just the messengers. Don't worship us.
Be aware also that there are many false prophets and guides operating on your earth.
Wow, that's powerful too, because even him is saying like, hey, we were seen as maybe not false prophets per se, but being the false gods that you're looking up to and thinking are like the highest of the high. And honestly, I mean, 1977, I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but even still today, there are people who are infallible, right? There's people who claim to be prophets and guides. So what he's about to get into is going to kind of bring this round circle.
They will suck your energy from you, the energy you call money, and will put it to evil areas, giving you worthless costs in return.
Okay, right before we get into this, because this is going to be another big piece. He's basically saying here, like, be careful where you put your energy, because people will suck energy from you. And I know there's always this joke of energy vampires are people who just take energy from you and they leave you feeling depleted. Now, I know it's kind of a bit of a joke, the energy vampire thing, and I don't think anyone really does it on purpose per se, but it is an interesting parallel. And it even goes to the energy of money, because money is just that, an energy, right? We put numerical paper dollars on it, but at the end of the day, it's just energy. This kind of even goes the same, is that if you give your money, you give your energy to evil people, you're not going to get any interest, if you will, on it. It's just going to disappear. And then we have another card that pops up. And again, this has to be part of a board game or some sort of game. So please comment below what that game is. And meanwhile, I'm going to read this in case you can't see it. It says, sucked dry and cast aside. Multiply the power of one of your groups, except by 4, for one action only. It is there considered destroyed, but does not count towards any goal. Don't know what that really means, but again, I'm more interested in what that game is.
Not divine self will protect you from this.
Again, go inward, go inward, go inward. Meditate. Be still now, listen, go inward. Your inner divine self will protect you from falling to false prophets, from giving your money to these false prophets that he's talking about.
You must be totally sensitive to the voice within you that can tell you what is true.
Alright, it starts to get kind of cut off from the music in the background, but I think you can basically read what he's saying. He's saying, what is confusion, chaos, and untruth? Because you can listen to yourself. A lot of us get separated from that voice within us. You know, if you hear voices or words, you're deemed as crazy. Yet, that voice can be our conscious, our guiding force, our guiding energy that can be telling us how to take the next step in life. I know myself, I struggle with listening to that voice sometimes, but it's super powerful when we actually do listening to it. Creating this video was actually me listening to that inner voice.
Learn to listen to the voices.
It's such a
I love that. I love it. See, here's the thing: is he's saying you lead yourself. Listen to it within you. He's just here to wake you up, if you will. It's just like a little tap on the head, if you will. He's saying you listen to yourself, and it will take you down that path of evolution. You've just got to trust yourself and listen.
This is our message.
I really appreciate that we can't. I insist.
Interesting, again, he's saying, and I know you might not have been able to hear it too well, but again, he's saying we've been watching you as much as you've been watching us, because we're those lights that you've been seeing.
So delicious, full of only really choice ingredients. I can.
So I'm not sure how well you guys can hear that. He says, you know now that we are here, and that there are more beings on and around your Earth than your scientists admit. Crazy. Hollow Earth, anybody? Not gonna go that far down the rabbit hole, but this is wild. Scientists won't even admit it. So I'm not sure what he's trying to say here, but I guess if you would ask like a normal scientist person, especially in 77, they would probably say that there's no such thing as alien life because we can't find it, yada, yada, yada. But here they're saying, look, it's here. It seems like he's not going too deep into it. He's just saying, hey, it's here. This isn't something you're going to be able to trust science with.
Cats have 9 lives.
Have no fear. Keep on race of your planet Earth.
Some powerful stuff. I mean, you know, you could chalk this up to something that hippies are saying, you know, because it's 77, and don't get me wrong, I feel like I'm a hippie in some ways. So it's not me trying to bash it, if you will, but it seems like a loving parent to me, right? We're deeply concerned about you, the path towards light. We'll do all that we can to help here. You know, don't have any fear, seek within yourself, we'll live in harmony, connect with your planet, and we're basically going to be good. Like, we'll get there and get through it. So take it so far as you will, but to me it seems like a loving, nurturing message.
This is the Ashtar Galactic Command. Thank you for your attention. We are left revealing the days of your existence. May you be blessed by the supreme love and truth of the universe.
So basically he's out. It's interesting, he says we again, you know, like we were talking about. You know, again, may you be blessed by supreme love and truth. I mean, that sounds like a message I want to follow. And then basically, this message slowly glitches out. Back to the TV station. That was the core message that we have going on here. Now let's see what people are saying about it being a hoax and if it's legit or not. This might be a good article to look at, which is The Independent, which is a UK-based article. So why not go to the source, right? The people in the UK. So they say that it's a hoax, right? And that became legend. And here's the best information I can kind of find on it. So the first part of this article basically goes over the message that we just watched. Here's a part of the article that I find hilarious. It was a hoax, of course, a prank, and a very sophisticated one for the time, when hacking into a TV network was not the work of just a few minutes with a laptop. Strangely though, no one's ever come forward and claimed responsibility for it, and the episode remains one of those curiosities from the 1970s that will perhaps never be explained. Okay, so super sophisticated, and nobody ever took credit for it. I find that so fascinating, right? Like, if you were able to hack a TV station, wouldn't somebody at some point want to take credit for it? You know, the argument could be that if they did understand the messages that they were putting out there, if they were a channel, maybe they thought to themselves, hey, like, I'm gonna do this like quasi fake, if you will, and if I just put this out there and don't take credit for it, maybe more people will believe it. Maybe it was like a human's way to get this information out there to the public. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of hard to say. But it's kind of funny though, right? Is that it's obviously a hoax, but no one's claimed it, and it's something that will never be explained. So it's kind of like this double twist. They're like, oh, it's a hoax, but we can't understand it. Okay, and here's another interesting thing, is this is part of the signal jammers. The problem with this though is that the signal wasn't really jammed. They almost just laid it over top of it. If you look at other hoax that happened around this similar time, because this did lead to other hoax. And so this was another one of those hoax. It happened in 1987. Right, so first of all, 10 years later, after the fact.
That is the only way to learn.
I'll get you a hot drink.
See how glitch, kind of similar, but not exactly the same. But here's the weird thing, is that this video is completely placed on top of it, right? And it's kind of just chaotic. Okay. Right? Like, it just seems like a bunch of pranksters kind of having fun, which, okay, fine, fair, I get it. And it gets kind of weird. You can look this up if you want. But the reason I bring that up is because it's like, did you see how it completely cut? This is the point I was trying to get at, is that it completely cut, right? There was no longer that background feed. But then, like with the Vrillon message, which I guess was older, right? You kind of have the background if you listen. That guy was still talking in the background. I don't know that that completely validates it either way, but I think it's an interesting corollary that should be looked into. And here's another amazing thing that I always find a little distasteful about the news, is that they even talk about how There was no punchline or rug pull, no swearing, no obscenity, no explicit protest, no specific station in the media or in general. And that keeps it ambiguous enough that there's still a glimmer of possibility, no matter how tiny, that the whole thing was and is somehow real. That's what I find so amazing. I just find that so amazing, is that people want to sit here and be like, oh yeah, it's obviously a hoax. Like, oh yeah, let me find it. Yeah, obviously. I just find it so amazing. Obviously it's a hoax. What do you mean, obviously? You just said that there's still a tiny glimmer of possibility that it's legitimate. So in the comment section below, let me know if you think it was a hoax or if it was legitimate. Did an alien actually intercept a UK news station at 5 o'clock to radio them? I don't know, but I'd love to hear from you. With that being said, t-shirts are available. Click the link below, and I will see you in the 6th dimension.